Hi, thank you so much for being here, and thank you both for joining us for this conversation. I'm coming off Bloomberg Television just now, and the markets were all over the place, kind of trying to sort of gauge where we're at when it comes to what's leading and driving the global markets. Mohammed, let me just start with you. What is leading global capital markets right now, and how are you positioning the Saudi exchange?
First of all, Assalamu alaikum, konnichiwa, good afternoon, everyone. Well, it's been an interesting year, to say the least, for financial markets across the globe. And probably you know, and you feel this being part of Bloomberg, we see different liquidity levels in different markets, high risk appetite, and large investors or institutional investors rebalancing their portfolio toward markets with long-term store growth. And what we've noticed is that the world is not defined by one or two financial centers anymore. We see the rise of regional anchors from Asia to the Middle East, and they are building a more balanced, interconnected global system. And we've been working at the Saudi Exchange, building with our counterpart in Asia, to have a pathway that connect the investors from both regions. And this played very well for us. We see great growth in foreign investors in our market for the past 10 years. But for the last 2 years, the highest growth is coming from, as a percentage, from the Asian investors.
Actually, you've told me earlier in the green room that when you come to Japan, it's only to see Hiro here because of all of those connections happening right now. Hiro, tell us a little bit about what you're seeing in capital markets today.
Sure. Let me just introduce what's happened in Japan in the past couple of years, or maybe 4 years. In the landscape of the Japanese market has completely changed in the past 4 years. Say back in 2021, many people still was thinking that Japan was a sleepy country, or Japan was even sleeping country. And even the stock market started performing well. When I visited the global investors, they asked me the question that, Yamaji-san, is this time different? Kind of question. And however, this year, from the beginning of this year, I visited Saudi Arabia in February, and also New York, Singapore, London, and Australia, again, New York and Singapore. Nobody asked me the question, that kind of question, just because everybody is convinced that Japan is really changing. And there was multiple factors working at the same time, not a single factor was driving this momentum. And I would like to touch upon the three of them. The one is we are getting out of deflation. And the second is that the heightened uncertainty. And the third one is the progress of the corporate governance reform in Japan. And getting out of deflation, as everybody knows, Japan has been suffering from deflation for close to the 3 decades. And under the deflationary economy, as you know, both corporate sector and the household sector kept cash in the deposit because cash was king. But now the inflationary pressure is coming, and they have to find out a better investment vehicle to hedge against inflation. So the corporate sector started investing heavily into the capital expenditure, such as the labor saving and efficiency improving technologies, or AIs, or digitalization. And also household is now shifting their savings to investment through the new expanded NISA from the beginning of last year. So, the NISA itself started back in 2014, and the total amount of money Japanese household sector put in NISA was 68 trillion yen. However, of which 32 trillion was only from the beginning of last year, and that was a 47%. That's because of the inflation, even the household sector started thinking that they have to make an investment. And the second, the heightened uncertainty. were like those rising geopolitical tensions, and also the new tariff situation by the U.S. However, it worked positively towards the Japanese market just because those uncertainty made Japan look more attractive because of its stability and the resilience. And right after the Trump administration announced the tariff, foreign investors started purchasing Japanese equity quite heavily. From January to March, it was a 2 trillion net sale by the foreign investors. But April to up until middle of November, they net purchase of 7.8 trillion.
So you saw the shift.
Right. So now, from the beginning of the year, 5.8 trillion yen net purchase by the foreign investors. And the third, in corporate governance reform, we started promoting corporate governance reform of Japan from 1999, it's a long time ago. However, because, and also we introduced a corporate governance code in Japan back in 2015. But because it was not a mandatory rule, it was a principle-based and comply or explain, so year by year, progress was not so visible. But 5 to 6 years was good enough to notice the progress. And I think now Japanese companies are quite aware of the market expectations, and we are committed to promote this further in the future.
So even today, Prime Minister Takaichi just talked about how Japan is back, right? Invest more in Japan as well. Mohammed, are you seeing Japan being back, but also Asian markets and the connectivity to the Saudi markets? How important is this at a time when you're also seeing your own foreign inflows?
Definitely. I mean, if you look at our market, 10 years ago, it was regional, probably local. And as of today, we are the fastest growing exchange in the world, literally. We hold the crown. For 2024, it's the largest exchange in terms of growth, number of listed companies. What we have done is different reforms. On the exchange level, for example, we've created the CCP, clearing counterparty, and we have changed our settlement cycle from, fun fact, we used to have T+0, but we need to slow down T+2 because familiarity is important for the largest investors. We've created a new market for small companies, made the listing easier, and we had an ambition to be a top 10 exchange in the world. And we did the Aramco IPO, which still holds the record as the largest IPO in the history. But you cannot rely on one great story like Aramco. So because of the regulations and because of what's going on, the biggest transformational program in the history, the Vision 2030, many things have changed positively to the way that everyone would like a country to be. And for example, the private sector has been growing very fast, even greater than other G20, most of the G20 peers. The non-oil revenue have increased and exceeded 50%. So we are on the way to reach our targets. And because of the business friendliness, opening up the market, and limiting the friction that the foreign investor used to face when they want to invest in our market, now we are on top 5 every year in terms of IPOs or IPO proceeds. And also the foreign investments have grown from less than $500 million when we started the QFI program, and now it's almost $100 billion US. And if you know that you can only access the market through QFI or through I would say, easy way like the swap. And so there is a big room for us to grow even more. And this is where the ETF comes in place. Yes, we had an arrangement back in 2017 when we were looking at the biggest markets in the world, and Japan is definitely one of the biggest, and you look after and how they are building their market along with the leading markets in the world. And led by the PIF, the activity of having ETFs to have exposure on the Saudi market, where they listed last year in Japan, and before that in other Asian markets, that feeded the market with more foreign inflows. And what we're doing is we'll be listing an ETF or Japanese securities in our market. And this is kind of relationship we're building with the other financial centers, especially with the Asian market. What we're trying to build is not to look at Saudi as a tactical trade. No, it's a generational opportunity. Something that you want to build and to be part of a country that its economy is booming. I mean, you look at all the numbers. Inflation is good levels, historical low employment, high purchasing power, high PMI, a lot of natural resources, and also we're opening up for different sectors, tourism, entertainment, and many things. And we have a visionary leader and a stable and safe country, and great geographical location. So you tick all the boxes for a market that is poised to become a global market in the future.
And yet when we see Saudi ETFs, for example, listed in Japan or in Hong Kong as well, we see the volumes are thin. So how do you deepen that collaboration between both markets and the integration as well?
Yeah, you can start with, so the first one is on the large caps. And usually when you start the ETFs, it's on a high level exposure, it's like a vanilla ETF. And then you test the market and what they're looking for, what kind of yield, and if there is a sectorial or thematic ETFs. We expect we will have more ETFs, Saudi ETFs on the Japanese market and our market as well. We'll start with one, I would say on the large caps, the names that everyone is familiar with back home, and we have a great history with the Japan and Japan brands, and I think you've heard His Excellency talking this morning about how are familiar with the Japanese culture. You start from there, and then you build it up, and the connectivity that will happen from between broker to the markets in Japan and vice versa. This will build up liquidity gradually. We've seen it in many ETFs. You start with one, and we'll definitely follow to buy many more.
Hiro, I want you to react to that, but also to the fact that how important is it to enhance corporate governance in order to also keep attracting these foreign inflows?
Well, I think, the corporate governance, good corporate governance is the foundation of investable and attractive marketplace, and also it's a foundation of investors' confidence in the one market. So I think, the corporate governance is a kind of, the corporate governance reform is kind of endless effort. Once you get a certain level, you have to aim to get higher. Other than that, it can be degraded quite easily. So I think, corporate governance is a foundation of the markets, that investors' confidence over the market. So it's very important to promote corporate governance.
When it comes to deepening the interest between the two regions?
I think, yes. I think in order to provide a good investment, good vehicle, I think corporate governance is a foundation for the investors' confidence.
We have also seen shareholder activism just surge in Japan. You're smiling right there. What's second only to the United States when it comes to activist campaigns so far this year. Are you expecting to see more, and what does that reflect in terms of the changes in Japan?
Well, as a market operator, we are quite neutral about those activists, or I call them engagement funds. Just because we need to have everybody in our market in order to keep the abundant liquidity. So we don't show, we don't reject any specific kind of investor, or we don't show any favor to one specific type of investor, but we welcome everybody. But at the same time, I think there are a number of shareholders' proposals in our shareholders' meeting, and some of them, this year, by the way, 114 companies received 399 shareholder proposals. This is just in June this year. And about 137 was from the so-called activists. And only 7 of them passed at the AGM. And probably market cap-wise, at this moment, about 1% of the total entire market cap is owned by the activists. I think UK is about 2% of the entire market cap, and the US is 1.1%. So we are not so much, the the engagement funds is not so dominant in Japan yet.
Yet. You expect more activism in 2026. And
Well, yes and no. Some of them, yes. Some of the proposals from the activists are not so illogic or unreasonable. I think some of them are quite reasonable. And I think I'd like to encourage management to be direct to those engagement funds, to have a direct conversation with them.
Does the strengthened corporate governance outlook, transparency, does that make Japan Exchange more attractive to foreign companies to list in this market? And what are you expecting in terms of the IPO pipeline?
Yes, IPOs, we have a very vibrant IPO market in Japan. Usually we have 80 to 90 IPOs a year. And quite, the Japanese startups are using it as a venue for their, the fundraising operations. But at the same time, we have been promoting IPOs from an Asian region as well. We'd like to make our market as an incubator for the Asian companies to grow their business. So we set up the new framework, which is, we called it TSE Asia Startup Hub, which is the new ecosystem of the 56 partners from brokers, banks, or VCs, or audit firms, or law firms, to support and help and support Asian startups to build up a business in Japan. And we selected 20 Asian startups as of today from 7 different countries, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam, South Korea, and Taiwan.
Okay.
I did it. So, and we selected those 20 companies based upon their willingness to build up a business in Japan, and also their potential market cap size. And a couple of them are already, the so-called unicorn, and also their willingness to list their shares on the Tokyo Stock Exchange. And I think, the unique character of this hub is that it's not just promoting IPOs in Japan, but also it is going to provide a comprehensive, support to the Asian startups to build up their business in Japan. So I think this is a kind of the commitment from us to the Asian market.
Mohammed, how does the IPO pipeline look for Saudi Exchange? Because I know that you're also trying to make it easier for cross-border listings as well.
Yeah, it's very vibrant as well. As said, we used to have only 5, in a good year we have 8 or 10. Now we've listed more than 40 since the beginning of this year. And we have the same number already applied for the regulator and the exchange. And beyond that, with the financial advisor and lead manager, the number goes up to 80 to 100. And those are all local companies because of the activity that's happening in the private sector and the growth in the VCs and PA market all feed into the market. The next stage for us is to build on with this momentum, being center for IPOs within the region, probably globally for certain sectors. And what we're doing now is building the pathways for them. So just recently, we've got the approval from the regulator on the Saudi depository receipt, which is the preferred way for any company to cross-list. Still, we want to be selective when we allow foreign company to cross-list to make use of the liquidity that we are enjoying. What we've done is to make it even easier for the local market, but on the investor side. So when we opened the market, the percentage of foreign investors used to be very small. It almost doesn't exist. And now a big portion of that is coming from foreign investor. And when we design any product and a process, we want to have a global standard, but we need to take care of the local investors.
Right.
So we've introduced a new mechanics or systems called capital management system. The main point of that is when any company wants to go public, they need to assign a traditional bank to participate in the IPO. This is for the retail tranche. which is something that is essential for us, and probably you won't find it in most of the international markets. And it used to be costly, it used to take time, so we've introduced the system, so you don't need to open an account and 10 plus banks to participate in each IPO. You only need to have a portfolio in your one of the broker, and you can participate. That impacted the cost, reduced the cost by more than 70%, reduced the time to market by 27%, and this is especially important because you want to have a recycle of liquidity from one IPO to another. You want to keep the momentum and also make it easier, faster, and cheaper for companies.
Before I let you go both, we have 30 seconds. So just quickly, what will define success for you in terms of milestones for your exchanges in the next few years? Hiro, you want to go?
Sure. Well, I would like to make the TSE as one of the hub in the Asian basin, attract all the investors from all over the world, but at the same time, we'd like to make this market as a hub for the Asian companies to raise funds or to build their business in Japan, and also obviously, and we'd like to enhance their cooperative relationship with other exchanges like Saudi exchange, and we would like to promote the mutual beneficial relationship with other exchanges.
How about you, Mohammed?
Yeah, I'll add to that. Well, when it comes to the goals, it's already published for us. I mean, we have a program, financial sector development program, and it has KPIs. It's mainly for an exchange to have a good number of IPOs and to have good level of liquidity. And we expect great things coming our way. The regulator already announced that they will be removing the QFI and opening the market for all the types of foreign investors, and also to lift the foreign ownership limit, make us similar to other leading markets globally. But also we are focusing on the other markets that we've recently launched, or at least enhanced. One is the debt market. Debt market is getting more important as the economy is relying more and more on the private sector to achieve its goals. And we've seen early remarks that we are on the right path. Another important milestone for us is when the derivatives market, which we be doing a major revamp on the first quarter of 2026, do its intended job from managing the risks, and also will have an impact on the liquidity on the main market. If we have all the markets running as great as the equity market, that will increase liquidity, the interest from local investors, international investors, and we believe 2026 will be a great year for us in terms of all the KPIs that any exchange would like to excel.
Perfect. Mohammed, Hiro, thank you so much for both of your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.